This week, Uber and Lyft drivers went out on strike for better working conditions. And my next guest is a member of Congress with a very practical idea for improving their working conditions. Representative Deb Haaland has been on the program before. Representative Haaland serves as the U.S. representative for New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. She is an attorney, she is a politician, and she's former chair of the New Mexico Democratic Party. And here to talk about her new proposal is Representative Deb Haaland. So Representative Haaland, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So rather than me summarizing your announcement, why don't you just briefly, if you would, please, let us and our audience know what it is you're proposing.
Sure. Well, it's very simple. It is to essentially recognize the Uber and Lyft drivers and other such workers in that category as employees. They're workers. They'd be recognized as employees where the employers actually pick up the tab for their Social Security and Medicare taxes. Right now, they are classified as contractors, and that does not give them the ability to do, to be like other employees in every other area of our economy and have their employer share those essential taxes with them. So they're stuck with the entire bill by the time it's time to file their taxes. And look, they're just not making enough money to be able to pay those on their own because Uber and Lyft do not pay their employees enough. They don't pay them a living wage. So I want to make sure that these folks are paid a living wage, that they are able to make ends meet by the end of the month. They can keep a roof over their head and food on their table. The inequity in this country with respect to working people, working families, is getting wider and wider, and the top executives at these corporations, while they're making millions of dollars a year, in fact, the vast majority of their workers are living in poverty, and it should not be that way.
And if you're talking about a corporation like Uber, for example, they're not just making millions, and their chief
they're making
officers,
billions.
Billions, sure. And so let's talk through this for a second, if you would, Representative Haaland, and what your bill addresses. So first of all, we've been through this kind of mythologizing or misleading narrative that's been put out. First, it was the sharing economy, that people were just sharing rides when they're really working. And then now we say the gig economy as if it's a value neutral thing. But what it really is, at least in a lot of cases, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but what it really is people working full-time or part-time on a job for a corporation, but not getting the benefits and protections that people should be getting. If I'm an employee working on the job in a store, in a factory, my employer, among other things, it has to pay the minimum wage, has to, as you mentioned, contribute their portion of the taxes that go to fund Social Security and Medicare, which is what your bill is about. So we have this kind of, no, everybody's an entrepreneur, everybody's on their own. And what it really boils down to is that workers aren't getting these benefits and these protections that the American people decided long ago through their government that they want them to get. Do you think that's a fair interpretation of what's going on here?
Yeah, yes, it absolutely is. And look, the bill that I'm proposing will be good for our economy. It will be good for working families. It will be good for everybody. We need to care far more about workers in this country than we are right now, right? Every time you turn around, somebody's trying to take something away from them, their health care, their other benefits, we just need to make sure that folks can earn a living wage, and it's fair, it's just, It's what we should do. Those are our American values, and that's what we need to do for our workers.
So if I recall correctly, and this is what your bill addresses, if I'm working on the job and the taxes that go, and I see it on my pay stub, it says, I think it's 2.9% of earnings. I might be off by a percentage point or two there, but is paid by me, and something a larger amount, maybe total, I guess, if I add everything up, it's about 6%, and then 6% and change from the employer, right? So we both together are supposed to pay for our Social Security and Medicare tax. Is that right?
Yes, those are called employer contributions, and more often than not, they appear on your paycheck stub as employer contributions, and it's been that way for a long time. I don't, I'm still, I'm scratching my head trying to figure out why folks don't want to be fair with their workers. I think that when you are fair, when you do your part to make sure that workers are taken care of, that the production will be better. Our country will be better. They'll be happier. I mean, our Constitution says that we should, that part of the reason we're here is to pursue happiness. We all need to make sure that we're fighting for our workers, because I felt over the last, probably decades, they have been under attack. So I just feel like this is something that we can do to even the playing field. I came to Congress as a single mom. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to be on food stamps. I know what it's like to have to put groceries back at the checkout counter when you don't have enough money to pay for things. And my guess is there's more people like me than there are the folks making, $140 million a year. So we just need to be more fair, more equal. We need to make sure that workers can support their families. My job as a congressperson is to fight for the success of every single American. And that's what I came to Congress to do. And that's what I'd like to do.
So let's talk about how this would work just for a second. So normally, as I was saying earlier, let's take the Social Security portion. I would pay 6.2% of my income, and my employer would pay 6.2%. If I'm working for one of these rideshare companies, I get stuck either paying the whole 12.4%, or it doesn't get paid, and I run the risk of not having the benefit when I need it. So your bill would require these companies to pay what, their 6.2% and my 6.2%? How does it work?
The entire thing would be the employer contribution. Yes. And so you would essentially, this is I feel like, we need to reclassify the worker. We need to reclassify so that they are employees, right? Rather than contractors. And that would take care of that.
So your bill would, in fact, require them to treat their employees as what they are, as employees. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's a novel idea, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I'm all for it. I'm a big supporter of it. So is this something you're going to turn into legislation and offer before the House, or what's the next step?
Yeah. So we're in the planning stages right now. I know there's a number of organizations who also support it. There are probably, 1 million Uber and Lyft drivers around the world who would support, their workforce being treated more fairly. So I imagine we'll find the support we need. And so we're in the planning stages. As I said, we'll move forward with it, and I will look for my colleagues to sign on and support my bill.
Well, Representative Deb Haaland, we appreciate your leadership on this issue. It's such an important issue, and we appreciate you coming on the Zero Hour.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you.